Hello, welcome back. So, a short little apology. I actually edited most of this video about 8 months ago, and I took a little bit of time off because I needed a bit of a break, to be honest. The last video before this took absolutely forever to edit, and I kind of burnt myself out. Not a good idea. But then after that, my final year of uni completely took hold of everything. Basically, it was my high priority. However, I graduated last week, fortunately, and now I've got a bit more time on my hands, so I figured, let's go have a look, see if I can finish editing that video finally that I had on the back burner. And it turns out that I'd lost all the video footage and a bunch of the audio. And so which is a little painful, but I found the motivation to do it now, so I'm going to go through and re-edit and re-record all of it from scratch. But yeah, with that all said, sorry for a bit of a wait, but we'll move on with the promised video. I hope you enjoy it. So here's a couple of really quick-fire tips, one after the other. One of all is that the Invis Watch and the Cloak and Dagger both give you around 20% protection when you're immediately starting to cloak. This means that if a sniper's about to headshot you, you have 125 HP. If you bring up the Invis Watch, you don't have to be fully cloaked, you'll only take 120 and you'll be able to escape with 5 health. This can be really useful. Say you're backing out from a corner out of the sniper sightline, you might as well pop the Invis Watch because the damage resistance is actually fairly life-saving in several situations. You might want to get used to doing that. In addition to this, remember that the sapper isn't the only thing you can use to destroy buildings. The stock revolver and the enforcer are the best at it, but the others work as well. But basically, if you see a sentry gun a mile away, or a dispenser or a teleporter, you don't have to run all the way up and sap it. You can just shoot it from where you are. The bullet spread isn't that bad. As long as you just shoot for the middle of the model, you'll be able to take it out, and the engineer really can't counter it. He can't just desap it and shoot you. He literally just has to repair it. And if he's got in the kind of a bad situation where he doesn't have a dispenser set up, you can take out the sentry fairly risk-free. Also worth mentioning is that the enforcer was buffed, so it goes through the Wrangler shield. So say you're playing on something like CP Steel, and there's a wrangled sentry on last and you can't deal with it. Instead of having to suicide repeatedly trying to sap it or try and do anything with your soldier, you can just stand a mile away with the enforcer and it will go completely through the Wrangler shield and you'll be able to take it out in about 4 or 5 shots. Incredibly useful tip, that one. In addition to this, remember, if you are running out of revolver ammo, I joke about it a lot, but butter knifing actually is a really, really good finisher. If you see someone running around on below 40 HP, and they're not about to instantly kill you, the butter knife, genuinely, it can be a lot easier to get the kill. You could miss 3 or 4 revolver shots in a row maybe, and they turn around and shoot you. Whereas the butter knife uses a giant melee collision hull. It's much harder to miss. Really, really good for dealing with snipers especially. If for some reason you're using the ambassador to deal with Razorback snipers or whatever, instead of going for the headshot and then the body shot, consider just going for a headshot and a butter knife, or a butter knife and a headshot. Tends to be a lot more reliable way to kill them. Here's another useful tip. Going invisible looks different to you than it does to everyone else. What I mean by this is the view model is lying to you. You cloak in around the same amount of time as your view model, give or take, but you decloak in the world slightly faster than your view model. What I mean by this is your hands will look like they're still invisible, while to everyone else they'll see a spy crouching in the corner who thinks he's invisible. It's good to learn the timings so you know when to pop out. You just learn it from practice over time, essentially. It's a bad idea to be in position to attack when you can't attack, so sometimes you should be a little bit more relaxed when you're decloaking, and only move when you're certain that the decloak is finished. There's nothing worse than being in position for the perfect medic pick, but not being able to swing your knife because you're technically still uncloaking. Something else I'd like to bring up is that going invisible shortens debuff timers by about 40%. What I mean by this is stuff like Fire, Bleed, Milk, and Durati. And as you can see in the next few clips, it is about 40%. I've rounded the numbers to be a bit easier to remember, but the main thing I want you to take away from this is that you essentially have 40% of a spicicle built into your watch, meaning that if someone does set you on fire or throw milk at you or whatever, all you have to do is go invisible. Obviously they'll still be able to see you, but once the timer runs out, you'll still be invisible, and you'll be able to run away safely. Further tips, I would recommend using a custom HUD, especially for Spy, for several reasons. First of all, if you disguise with the stock HUD, your entire screen is filled with a giant silhouette. Custom HUDs often make this small and be in the corner. I would recommend not disabling it because it's good to know when your smoke has disappeared, but it's better to have a HUD that makes it smaller than to have the giant one. Second of all, the stock HUD hides your cloak and spicicle meter as a tiny little bar in the bottom right corner of the screen. You should not rely on the view model on the Invis watch for these kinds of things. It's way more accurate to have a nice big bar in the bottom middle of your screen telling you exactly how much time you've got left. Third of all, Spy is a class that really relies on the numbers game, so having a good HUD and a good set of damage numbers and colours and sizes will mean that you will never have to guess or squint at someone to see their HP value and whether or not you can revolver them down or not. It's also good to check enemy medics' medigun percentage, so if you just quickly stare at them, you can instantly see their medigun percentage. Some HUDs make it harder to see than others. It's important to know damage values at different ranges for your favourite revolver, as knowing the difference between a 1, a 2, a 3 shot to kill can be the difference between getting an awesome medic pick or basically suiciding to deal 15% damage to an enemy. Finally, arguably one of the more important reasons to get a custom HUD, the rotation of the disguise player model. On the stock HUD, and indeed many custom HUDs, the 3D model in the bottom left of the screen is rotated to just look pretty. I would 100% recommend getting one that just turns them at a 90-degree angle, so you can always 100% know exactly what weapon your disguise has out. So here's some even more tips. Please use your gun. It's the most important, reliable damage dealer Spy has. Trick stabs look cool in pub frag videos, sure, but when you're playing against good players, you shouldn't just rely down to, well, luck, essentially, if you can avoid it. What I mean by this, for example, if you see someone that you can two-shot with your revolver, and it's more likely to get than a backstab, you should just go for it. This goes for everything. Players across the map running health packs on 20 HP are a completely free pick if you can aim. People in mid-range below 100 HP are a free two-shot with the stock revolver. Dealing with scouts gives you a genuine chance if you manage to get the first shot off before they notice you, because at that point it's a race to see who can get 2 meat shots faster. In general, if you want to spend time improving anything on Spy, be it knowing what disguise to use, what ammo routes to take with cloak, or how to get a cool gamer matador moon stab or whatever, I'd 100% recommend just getting revolver aim. It's a skill that carries over to most things, not only in TF2 but other shooters in general, and it's most important on Spy, since you'll get to the point that players are constantly spy checking. People know where decloak spots are and how to turn around, they'll have communications and they'll know exactly where you're going to pop up. So the only picks you can guarantee yourself over a game are going to be revolver based. There are ways to get backstabs more likely, of course. The favourite one for me was to go in for an NG pick or a medic pick when my team's demo men and soldier were bombing in, and they were distracted. When it comes to the long run, you'll do much better to have 10 revolver frags and 5 knife frags in a game, rather than just 5 knife frags. If you want a super easy tip to look like you're good at Spy, you can constantly scan enemy players for people below a certain HP threshold that you're happy to start revolver de-aiming them at. The better you get, the higher this threshold should get. It should get to the point that you'll just have a huge KD ratio without the effort of having to set up backstabs and hoping they don't turn around. It's a really easy, cool path to success once you've sunk enough hours in. What I mean by this, for example, is if you play enough Spy, you'll know for certain that you'll hit 2 out of 6 revolver shots, 3, 4, 6, you'll hit all of them. And that's how you know exactly what players you can kill. If you see someone on 50 health, you know you'll one-shot them with the revolver. If you see someone on 100 health, you know you'll two-shot them. If you think you're good at aiming and you see someone at mid-range on full health and it's a scout, you try and DM them. If you're good at aiming, you should win. These are the things that I find way more important on Spy than trying to chase them for 10 seconds and hoping that no one shoots you. Finally, if you want my opinion on hardware, stuff that you can actually just spend money on, I recommend going in this order. You go for a good PC that you can get a comfortable frame rate on, then a 144Hz monitor, then a good mouse. Miles away in the distance, consider a mechanical keyboard. 144Hz helps a huge deal in any game with a lot of movement. Most modern mice are pretty decent these days, so while gaming mice do have a benefit, and you might want to get one eventually, they're way less important in my eyes than a good monitor. I'd also, in general, go for a low sensitivity if you can. It's certainly up to preference, but personally, I've always found my aim improved when I moved from 6.8 inches to 360 to 13.6 inches of 360. It's the kind of thing that deals really nicely if you have shaky hands or cold hands, and it means that little muscle movements don't mess up your aim too much. Alright, cool, so thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you all in the future. If you want any more tips, I might make another one of these in the future. I might make ones for other classes. Let me know what you enjoy, but that'll be all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.